Start Kid Young. Yeah.
What's the HSE? Murder! What's the HSE?
Murder!
What's the HSE?
Murder!
What's the HSE?
Murder!
What's the HSE?
Murder!
What's the caravan? What's the HSE?
Murder!
What's the HSE?
Murder!
Who did the caravan?
It says!
Fucking nobody.
Enough, please, enough!
HSE.
Murderers!
HSE.
Murderers!
What did the caravan?
It says!
What did the caravan?
It says!
HSE.
Murderers!
HSE.
Murderers!
Crosslanes. Close it.
Murderers!
Crosslanes. Close it. Wait. Crosslanes.
Close it!
Crosslanes.
Close it!
Crosslanes.
Close it!
HSE.
Murderers!
HSE.
Murderers!
Crosslanes.
Close it!
Crosslanes.
Close it!
HSE.
Murderers!
HSE.
Murderers!
HSE.
Murderers!
HSE.
Murderers!
Crosslanes.
Close it!
Crosslanes.
Close it!
Crosslanes.
Close it!
HSE.
Murderers!
HSE.
Murderers!
Crosslanes.
Close it!
Crosslanes.
Close it!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW.
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW.
That's the one.
Enough, please, enough! Enough, please, enough! Enough, please, enough!
HSE.
Murderers!
HSE.
Murderers!
Crosslanes.
Close it!
Crosslanes.
Close it!
HSE.
Murderers!
HSE.
Murderers!
Crosslanes.
Close it!
Crosslanes.
Close it! MAXI'S LAW!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW.
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW.
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW.
That's the one.
MAXI'S LAW.
Martin!
Yeah, where's the lobby?
What are we?
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW!
That's the one.
Enough is enough! Save our loved ones!
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW!
That's the one.
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW!
That's the one.
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
HSE!
Murderers!
HSE!
Murderers!
Crosslanes!
Close it!
Crosslanes!
Close it! Where are we here from?
MAXI'S LAW!
Where are we here from?
MAXI'S LAW!
Close it!
Close it!
Close it!
Close it!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW!
What are we here for?
MAXI'S LAW!
That's the one.
Close it!
Hi Brandon, how are you? What's the crack? That's right.
No, you're okay.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for being here today. Thank you for standing together in the face of an urgent crisis, because that's exactly what we're dealing with, a crisis. MAXI'S Law is not just a call for change. It's a demand for justice, for dignity, for the rights of people suffering with mental health issues. Rights that should have been guaranteed long ago, but have been swept aside by our systems. We all know too well the stories of places like Crosslanes, where neglect and disregard have become the norm. It's unacceptable. We refuse to tolerate these failures any longer. Let me ask you, why is it animals being sent to the slaughter have more rights than people battling with mental health conditions in Ireland? How can we stand by while this broken system allows individuals to fall through the cracks time and time again, leading to more unnecessary tragedies? We cannot and we will not. So right now I'm asking each and every one of you to take action. Everybody here has a phone today. Take out your phone. Go on to MAXI'S Law Facebook page. If you haven't already liked it, like it. If you've already liked it, share the latest posts. Every person who reads about MAXI'S Law brings us closer to the change we need. And remember, elections are coming. And when the candidates come knocking at your door, ask them one question. Are you endorsing MAXI'S Law? Make it clear that if they're not supporting us, and if they're not willing to commit to fixing our mental health system, they won't get your vote. This is no time for political allegiances. It's time to unite as one. It's time to stand up for what is right, because we cannot afford to lose one more life to neglect, to inequality, to a system that turns its back on those in need. Together we can make sure MAXI'S Law is passed. Together we can ensure no one else suffers needlessly. Let's make history here and now, today. Thank you very much. With that, I'd like to invite Delia Tui to the stage to have a short talk on how mental health and negligence in the health sector has failed her and her family. Delia Tui, please.
I've been wanting to stick to 5 or 7 minutes. Sometimes I'll die at the cold. Is that better? Can you hear me now? Yeah. My son, can you hear me?
No.
Is it up?
There what is, folks.
Technical issues.
Technical issue. This be Dylan. Testing.
This is what happens when you don't pay your bills. Well, listen, while we're trying to get that fixed, go on to your phones and do as I said. Share our literature.
like our pages. Let everybody know we're here for the long haul. Enough is enough.
Just near them, you want to shout?
It's kind of like our mental health system, just a little bit broken.
I don't know if my son would know that he'd be delighted to shut me up.
If anybody wants to come up and sing a song, by all means.
Stephen.
Two, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's me.
Thanks for making these guys.
Once again, folks, sorry about this. I'm blaming TJ.
1, 2, 1, 2. Here you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
What a tone!
I blame my son for this one because I can just see him standing there going, oh, Mom. My son struggled with his mental health for over 10 years. There was a referral made to CAMS over the summer after he left primary school. He accessed cigarettes and cannabis at school within a couple of weeks of starting secondary school. I made a complaint about CAMS to the HSE after his first suicide attempt when he was 13. They responded by withdrawing treatment, stating my complaint breached the confidentiality of the treatment session and they could no longer offer any further treatments in case I made more complaints. They made a referral to TUSLA expressing concerns about my mental health and my parenting. They paid under €1,000, just under €1,000 for legal advice about getting an injunction through the High Court to stop me emailing them and others asking for help for my child. An injunction would cost about €5,000, just for anyone that's not acquainted with the finances of it. During this time, my GP had written several letters in support of me and my parenting and stated repeatedly he had no concerns for my mental health. He referred me to a psychiatrist for a second opinion who also agreed that I did not have mental health issues. TUSLA ignored all of this and supported CAMS. In the meantime, the solicitor CAMS consulted with responded by saying there were no grounds for an injunction and that they couldn't withdraw treatment as a result of complaint. I was unaware of all of this at the time. My son was offered a second opinion neurological assessment. A diagnosis and recommendations for medication were made. The diagnosis and recommendations were rejected by CAMS. I continued to fight for treatment for my son. A third opinion assessment with a psychiatrist, a private psychiatrist outside of the HSE, was offered to my son by CAMS. Again, her diagnosis and treatment recommendations were rejected by CAMS. This went on over a period of 2 years. During this time, I lost my job. We were homeless for 4 months, and I lived in the constant fear that TUSLA would take both of my children. When the second opinion diagnosis and recommendation was made, they dropped my family like a stone. We were told we did not fit the criteria as there was no child protection issues. During this time, in the absence of appropriate mental health care and exacerbated by the battle that we had with CAMS and TUSLA, my son's drug use escalated and he began using more serious substances, to the point that when he finally entered residential treatment at the age of 19, he had used pretty much every drug possible. So by the time, the private psychiatrist that made the assessment, the third opinion assessment, she was so shocked and horrified by what we experienced that she treated him for free until he was 18. But by the time she offered to treat him, the medication she offered couldn't compete with the drugs that he was already using. Despite attempting suicide several times as a teenager, CAMHS never once acknowledged that Dylan was suicidal, describing every attempt as a cry for help, but never actually providing the help that he needed. Over the next 8 years, Dylan made repeated attempts to get sober and to practice self-care and to try and motivate himself to wellness. Those 8 years were a roller coaster, and our family's lives revolved around trying to keep him safe and alive. All of the normal milestones that get celebrated in a teenager's life were marred by his struggles with addiction and mental health issues. Every time I persuaded him to get help from our mental health services, he was rejected due to his alcohol and other substance use. The final 2 times he reached out were as an adult. The second last time he was brought to A&E by ambulance. He waited approximately 6 hours in Drogheda A&E before he was seen by a doctor who sent him to Crosslanes. He spent approximately another 6 hours in Crosslanes, where he repeatedly poured his heart out to a psychiatrist. At one point he got down on his 2 knees and cried and said, "If you send me home, I'll kill myself. I can't take this anymore." He was eventually told that morning that there was nothing that they could do for him until he was free of all substances for at least 6 weeks, and was sent away devastated and exhausted again. His final experience was with the dual diagnosis service in Ladywell. His GP made a referral at Dylan's request in January 2023. In April 2023, he was experiencing a slip in his mental health and he knew what was coming. So he rang to see where he was on the waiting list. He was simply told that the referral was rejected, no explanation of why it was rejected. So he contacted his GP. His GP offered him an appointment to discuss this, said he couldn't do anything over the phone for him. At that point, my son's mental health was starting to hit crisis point, and he was never stable enough. He never made that appointment, and he was never stable enough to engage with the mental health services or his GP again after that. In the afternoon of 16th of July 2023, he was found unresponsive and pronounced dead. He had died due to a drug overdose after a mental health crisis. After this, I made 2 Freedom of Information requests to Ladywell seeking an explanation for why my son's referral was rejected. The response to the first request was that no such dual diagnosis service existed in Ladywell. So I made a second request with all of the information that I had, confirming that such a service did in fact exist in Ladywell, and the response I got to the second request was that they could find no record of the referral by the GP to Ladywell services. So this is where we are today. My take on the whole thing: my son had ADHD and he developed a substance abuse issue as a way of coping with the fact that he wasn't diagnosed and he wasn't medicated. He'd suffered a series of traumas as a young child, and despite numerous attempts by us, we could never get someone who seemed to be trauma informed and could deal with addressing those traumas and helping him work his way through it. So I want to just leave you with the final thing, that mental health services and addiction services are treated as 2 separate departments in this country. We need a dual diagnosis service, because I don't know of any addict that doesn't have mental health services. There's plenty of people with mental health issues that don't have addiction issues, but I just don't think you can separate addiction and mental health issues. So I know there's probably going to be other people that will speak today about their experiences with the private health sector, but if you go for help at a private mental health facility, addiction and mental health services are not treated separately, they're treated together, and they don't exclude you from getting help. So thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Delia. Next up to have a few words is Sean Kavanagh. Sean Maxi Kavanagh.
Good to see you. Nice wee turnout here today. Our Mark, our Maxie is as well known as John Daly says he didn't realise his name was Mark until he went to the wake. It was funny, like. But look, at me personally, I was on holidays when I got the phone call from my brother Michael to say I was sick in the stomach. That when I heard about the way he went looking for help and he wasn't given it. I know Mark, obviously all my life, but at the same time, it took a lot of courage for him to go up and expect to get some help. My mum was telling me this morning, the last time she seen Mark was when he walked out the gate on a Wednesday and he says, "Mum, I'll see you in 4 weeks. I'm going to get help now and get sorted." And believe it or not, my mum's still sitting at the same table, and God love her. Maxie, Mark isn't coming back in that gate, which is a sad thing that could have been prevented, in my own personal opinion about that. I was in the hospital Monday, just gone there. I sat for 29 hours in the A&E. And I have to say, like, I was up with blood pressure, but my blood was actually getting even worse. The amount of people that I spoke to at the A&E that was sent over from Crosslanes was a disgrace. It was like passing the buck. And I'm sorry, I don't want to be coming across like arrogant when I say that, but it's the only word you could really put to it. Like, if they've been sent over from the A&E to Crosslanes and then they've been sent back. Like, if the people in Crosslanes aren't professional enough to do the job, don't be there at all. Get out the door and let someone else in that really wants to do it and help people. Now, if it takes over Maxie's life to try and save someone else's life, anywhere in the country or the world, let's get it done and get a proper health system in place. Because if they're not going to see it, well, then the HSE have to step in here and say, listen, we'll send you to a private clinic. We'll cover the bill. We'll sort that out for you. Don't you panic about it. You have enough going on at the minute. But to leave a person in a room like my brother for now 5 hours and not even come out and offer him a glass of water, cup of tea or coffee, to sit and talk to him and say, Mark, don't worry about it. There'll be someone with you shortly. Left him there. That should not happen. I do come across very angry. I'm very sorry that I am. We lost enough in the family, and everyone else here lost. Even poor Harry Taff, you see their families here as well. It does get deep into people's veins about this whole situation. So I am asking all the councillors, everyone is up for election, come behind us, stick with us. Let's get this passed. Just because it's Maxie's law, it's everyone's law in the country. Let's force it through. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank every single each one of you for the great send-off you give to my brother. And for Eugene, Garvey, Michael, they all set the whole thing up to go for me. It's amazing. And my mum actually told me to tell you all today, she loves you all and thank you very much for everything.
Thank you, Maxie. Next up for a few words is Sinead Brown.
Hello. I just want to speak a wee bit about Ian, who dealt with that service because he was referred to that service. On the 12th of April 2019, he was in a bad way. He went to his counsellor. He was advised to go to the department in Crosslanes and that he couldn't just go straight there. He had to go through the whole system of the A&E triage. So he left on his own. He didn't want anybody to go with him. He was going to get professional help because that's what he wanted. Nobody else could help him. He left and went to A&E, was triaged there, and their view on that was he was psychiatric and he was sent over to Crosslanes. He spent hours there, nobody was going to see him till after 6, and he came home late that night and said that it was a waste of time. He filled in 14 pages of an assessment, and he said he was going again on Wednesday morning. He left early. He went to his GP, Dr. Paul O'Reilly. He got a letter with strong wording to say that regardless of if Ian had taken anything, which he did admit to them that he took some tablets and alcohol on the Monday. He didn't take anything on the Tuesday. And regardless of what was in his system, that he was an imminent threat. He was suicidal, actively suicidal. And at that stage, I didn't know that the house was set up. He had bought the rope on the Monday. He went with his dad. He went back to the counsellor and explained, and he said, go straight up, back up to A&E, go through the whole thing again, which he did. And what they wrote on that was unwell, and sent him back over to the department in Crosslanes, where he sat again. So in total for 2 days, he spent up to 18 hours in that department to be assessed, to do another 14-page assessment, and to be sent home again and told to come back in 3 weeks. He came in that night, and his luck, he was just deflated and said it was an absolute waste. If that's not where I'm supposed to go, if I'm not going to get professional help, why was I sent there? Why did I spend practically 2 days, the last 2 days of his life, sitting there? On the 14th of March 2019, Ian emailed the HSE Live to complain about how the treatment he got for the past 48 hours. To which they replied back and said that they had no, what would you call it, like doctors there. They couldn't, if he wanted to complain, to contact another place in Drogheda, Singleton House. And at that stage, what could he do? I contacted his GP, and he followed up with a call in the afternoon at 3:27, which is funny because that's the actual time Ian was born at, 3:27, and I still believe to this day Ian was dead at that time. He was told to, the GP couldn't believe that he wasn't admitted, and told me just to keep an eye on him, and if he was still the same the next day, to go back up to Drogheda again. Well, Ian was in Drogheda the next day, getting a post-mortem done. The inquest took place in June over here, 2021, and the consultant psychiatrist who was there, which didn't meet Ian for them 2 days, and give her statement, Dr. Jo Rowley, and I will say that because she is part and parcel of the whole problem. She runs the Ladywag Clinic. She's very much involved in Crosslanes, actually got the place opened to help people. The coroner made a recommendation that nobody be turned away, regardless of their ingestion of medication, alcohol, anything, to be seen and assessed. And that recommendation, it's not worth the paper it's written on, because it's still happening to this day. At this minute in time, there probably is somebody sitting up in that department waiting to get seen, waiting to get help. I don't even know what else to say.
Thanks, Sinead. Very sad story. Next up, we'd like to ask Donna Quinn to come up and speak about her son, EJ.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. I don't know where to start. My son Lee, 25 years of age, forever now. Lee had been suffering with mental health for a long time. He used to say to me, "Mum, my head's like a ping pong ball." That's the only way he could describe it to me. And he struggled through, but he always was like, "No, I'm okay, I don't need help, grand." He started taking substances himself to make it all go away. It all came to a head last year but we were fighting every day to keep him alive. And around Christmas, he went into a psychosis because there was stuff in his system. We went to A&E, sat out. They were understanding, but obviously someone in that state of mind can't sit and wait that long, so he left. A few weeks later, 3 o'clock in the morning, I get a voice note from him. Ma'am, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be here. I don't know what's wrong with me. Why am I like this? He was in A&E again, so off we get, and I go up, and he wouldn't let me wait with him, but he seemed calm. So I stayed for a while. We went in and we checked him. We let him be because he didn't want us there, and he came home. Load of shite, ma'am, waste of time, blah, blah, blah. That was grand. Fast forward to a couple of weeks later, we get a phone call to say Lee was seizing in his nanny's house, in his bed. 3 hours of seizures, got him up to the hospital. They were amazing in the hospital at that stage, to be honest, but they had to intubate him because they couldn't stop the seizures. His wee brain just wouldn't stop. And the saddest thing in this world, I said at that time, was my son looked more peaceful in a coma than he had in I don't know how long. So when he got upstairs out of ICU, one of the luckiest boys alive, and I was lucky, I thought I was, because we got him back. We were told, don't you worry, he will not get out of here without being seen. This child needs psychiatric help, blah, 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 and don't be no panic, he definitely won't be allowed out of here. So fast forward to a week later, and his girlfriend, Justine, who was heavily pregnant at the time, she was talking to him. They basically told her, she actually was told, you know, it's very sad, a lot of people from heaven and more don't make it out of here. Like, what does that even mean? Like, do you know what I mean? And then said he doesn't need psychiatric help because he kept trying to sign himself out. I wouldn't allow him, obviously, because we were waiting on the psychiatrist. That never came. And we were told by a nurse who is obviously not a psychiatrist, your son doesn't need a psychiatrist, he's not a suicide risk. Lee was found dead in the Ronald McDonald house beside a sick child on the 30th of August, 25 years of age. Not a suicide risk. That's all. That's it.
Thank you very much, Donna. I know it's very raw at the minute for you and the family, so I appreciate you coming up. Thank you. Next up for a few words is Buddha, Paul Calf. This will be fun.
It won't be fun. I just want to thank everybody for coming. And the reason why you're here is we're trying to make a stop on this suicidal all the time. We need to get, Crosslanes to look after our people, right? This time, 4 years ago, I stood here in the same place as everyone else is today, talking about the health system in Crosslanes, right? They're nothing but bullies. That's all they are. Harry went up on the Wednesday night, and he stayed with them for 2 hours. He ended up there, they said that there was no help that was there for him, that it wasn't in-house, it was out-house, that was to go home. That's their excuse for wiping their hands like that there of our mental health, right? On Saturday morning, Harry disappeared. We went around looking for Harry on Saturday morning. It took us for 2 days to find Harry. We find him on the Sunday morning. We cut Harry down, that's what we done. We picked up the pieces, right? Now, I'm going to talk about another person. We had 3 people in Crosslanes. A fellow called Bernard Duffy, right? Bernard was in Crosslanes for a week. When he was in Crosslanes, they sent him out after a week to his mommy, Mary, who was 75 years of age, right? Who knew nothing about mental health. But yet they put Bernard out for holding a minor. If Mary went up to get a job in Crosslanes, she wouldn't get it because she wouldn't have the thing for it, right? And this is what they are doing up there. Someone come up with an idea 20 years ago of a savings of money. Nothing about places, make it small beds, 14, 15 beds. We have to do Loud and Mead. That's where this is all going from, right? So we need to go and we need to get this up and running and get the health system back in order. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Next up, we'd like to offer Rory a few minutes to speak, and that'll be our final speaker, and then I'll close up. And I just want to let you know, guys, Smashers here have kindly donated a bit of food there. It's not much. It's food for 100 people. Hot food for 50 and sandwiches for 50. If you want to send the kids up, we'll put it up here somewhere, and the kids can go up and get fed. All right? Thank you. Rory.
Thanks, Podge. I'm assuming I can get fed as well. Look, I'm not going to speak for very long. It's already been said. Look, we know all the issues. We had the meeting the other night, and fair play to everybody who's been involved in relation to MAXI'S Law. It's straightforward. It's about equality of access. It's about equality of access to mental health supports. Look, there's no point getting into statistics, but it's straightforward. This area, which is Loudmead as regards mental health services, has the least provision of beds across the board. We have the lowest amount of beds that they have in this state. Every time that the Mental Health Commission has carried out checks in relation to Crosslanes, they have found that for the beds that they have an insufficient amount of staff. People have talked about the issues that they have had in relation to how it's been dealt with. And I think it's fair to say that none of this is working for anybody. We also know, if we're talking specifically in relation to Maxi, there's a huge issue in relation to assessments. In other parts of the state, you go into, if obviously you get a doctor to sign, you go to an accident and emergency, and they will have the ability to assess you there fairly quickly. And then you either are in community care or you're into Crosslanes, you're into the equivalent of a Crosslanes, you're directly into a bed. Not a case of a waiting room, and look, Sean has said it far clearer and far more eloquently than I can. None of this is good enough. But anybody who's tried to ring CAMS in the last period will realise the difficulty that they have. You'll get a warning in relation to admin staff that there isn't enough of them at this point in time. So therefore, you need to, you know what I mean? We have people who are coming to us in relation to the fact that their kids can't be sure of getting their medicines, can't be sure of when that they're going to be seen as regards their appointments, and none of this is good enough. So it is fair to say, and it has been said by everyone involved in relation to MAXI'S Law, we all as politicians stood at the meeting in the Clans the other day. Everyone has given an absolute level of support in relation to this, but it's a matter of follow-through. There is not a huge period of time before an election here, before a general election and then a government. So it's a matter of making sure that people do make the promises, but it's about follow-through in government. And that goes for myself and Sinn Féin, but it goes for every party across the board that may possibly be in government. Because we cannot keep having these particular protests here. We cannot have a case of families that feel that they are utterly aggrieved, that they have been let down badly. We cannot have a case where we do not have enough beds, we don't have enough community care, we don't have enough. At this point in time, there's 55 positions that are not filled in Loudmead mental health services. But you talk to any of the unions and they will tell you that there has been a suppression of posts. So that number is even greater. So we do not in any way have the capacity to offer all the people in this town and wider the support that they need from a mental health point of view. We do not need to see any more tragedies. We need to make sure that those supports are there and the supports for families. I get we're never going to have utopia, but we are failing in relation to those early interventions, because some people won't need an emergency bed. They won't need acute care. They need to make sure that they can get those early interventions. And look, myself and a number of my party colleagues met with the likes of So Sad lately, and what they have told us, and they are people who across this region are dealing with a huge amount of people from a counselling and many other interventions point of view. They will also tell you that the state services sometimes refer into them, and I'm aware of Pieta House and others that are offering, and Let's Talk Mental Health, and many others. But what So Sad have said is they are facing closure. Because what a promise that was made on the basis of our meeting and us bringing it up with the minister, and look, I would like to think this would happen very quickly, even before the election, is that the HSE the Minister and SOSAD would be in the room, so they are told exactly what they need to do from a point of view of ensuring that they have funding to continue with their service. So we are failing across the board at this point in time. You need to keep the politicians accountable, and we need to ensure that the service that's provided to the people of Dundalk, to the people of Louth, to the people of Loudmead and across this state and country is fit for purpose, because at this point in time it's not. There's an absolute failure across the board. We do not need to have more protests like this, and we need to make sure that we look after our people, that we give them what they deserve. And that means whatever their case is, that we don't just look after people that have private health insurance, we look after everybody.
Thank you, Rory. Just before I close, there's just a couple of people we want to thank. There's a lot of work went on behind the scenes for this and the first public meeting on Tuesday night, so I'll just read them out really quick. We'd like to thank the Clan of Gaels, Lockup, Stage and Lighting, TJ Murphy, Smashers, Moran CCTV, The Argus, Dundalk FM, Dundalk Leader, Fave 44, Stevie Boyle, Conley Signs, LMFM, Paddy Mack. We'd also like to thank Let's Talk Mental Health to touch base with us this week, and they have told us that if anybody is ever feeling the effects of mental health, please do give them a shout, especially after today, because it was a very tough day today listening to these stories. They do offer free counselling and stuff, and it's located here on Kilbaston Street. We have the number posted on our Facebook page as well. So if you're feeling the effects or you're feeling down, please use that service. It's free of charge. One last thing too, we have a petition online at the minute. It's regarding mental health and stuff, and regarding the budget for mental health. There's a QR code. A lot of you would have received posters this morning. It's on the QR code, and again, we'll have that up on our social medias. Please fill out the petition. So with that, I'd like to close today's, firstly, the food's already out there, so if you're hungry, go down outside Smashers. There's loads of food there, free of charge. Preferably get the kids in first, you know yourself. So with that, I'd like to close. Thank you all for being here today. Your presence, your voices, your solidarity mean more than words can express. Today we've come together, not just for ourselves, but for those we've lost. Those who no longer have a voice in this fight. We're here. We're here for Harry Taff, for Maxi, for Daniel Carby, Joey Jervis, Melissa Woods, Ian Brown, Andy Califf, Davy Cooney, Jerry McCabe, Lee J. Kavanagh, Patrick Maguire, and I could go on for a week. They're all friends of mine. I knew every one of them. Sorry. Each of these names reminds us of the urgency for change. Each one is a life that mattered, a story that should have had a different ending. As we leave here today, I urge everybody, every one of you, to keep spreading our message. Let their stories live on in every conversation, every post and every opportunity to bring Maxi's Law to life. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, share it on social media. Ask your representatives, are they supporting Maxi's Law? Make it clear that we won't settle anymore for a broken system. Together we are unstoppable. Together we'll make sure no one else is lost to neglect and inequality. Thank you everybody for standing together, for them and for everyone who still needs us. This is only the beginning. Thank you.
Please use the food because we don't want to throw it waste.
And so.